What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of I Got Next. I'm with my boy, Wasted Talent, and I'm with my other boy that I haven't seen in a few years, but we finally connected back up, my man Mitchell Renz. Mitch, what's up, man? How are you?
When you said wasted town, I thought we were going back to my college baseball days. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I was like, damn, that's the intro you're gonna do me with. No, man, it's good to see you. I know probably the last time that we hung out, I was a season ticket holder at Centenary basketball, so it's been a minute or two. But you hit me up. I'm more than happy to jump on some podcasts. And I don't know if you see the weather down here in Dallas, Texas, but it's like 15 degrees. There's ice. There's nothing to do. So I was like, you know what, man, let's hop on a podcast. And then anytime I can hop on with some new Raiders creators, man, it's a really cool thing.
Yo, it's
I
funny, man,
appreciate it.
because when you hit me back and you were like, yeah, due to the weather, I was like, what? I'm like, don't you live in Texas? And then I looked and I'm like, oh man, they're going through their own storm right now. And didn't it happen a
It's
few
wild.
years ago when there was like a pretty bad storm?
Yeah. So last year they literally called it Snowmageddon. And I mean, you grew up in the Northeast, people know how to deal with it. It's just down here, you get like an inch of ice and it's an inch goes a far way, is from what I've been told.
Yeah, it's like when in Atlanta, remember a couple of years ago, they had people stuck on the highway for 3 days. You remember that? I'm like, what the fuck? But they don't have the
It's
infrastructure for it down there.
no, nothing. It's crazy, crazy. But no, I don't want to. We don't need to talk about the weather because then I feel like I'm just talking to my dad or my grandma because that's all they talk about. So
Yeah, Mitch, I just really wanted to get into it with you, man, about the off season, the moves that have been made, and you know, the temperature of the locker room from your perspective. You know what I mean? Because with Rich Bisaccia being such a beloved guy, man, I've never seen players, you know, type some of the things that they typed about this guy. He must have had a real special relationship with those guys. But now we're bringing in Josh McDaniels and Ziegler and now Champ Kelly, man. Like, what is your opinion on all of that stuff that's going on?
I mean, personally, I wasn't that crazy about the whole Josh McDaniels hiring at first because of the connection just simply in that Raiders locker room. I mean, when you had the loss of John Gruden, the thing that happened with Henry Ruggs, the loss of even like a guy like Damon Arnett. I mean, that team they went through a lot. And actually today, Hunter Renfrow spoke at the Pro Bowl and said, that they felt that they lost a family member or a teammate when Rich Bisaccia was not decided to be brought back. So when you hear stuff like that, obviously those guys have a lot of respect for him. Bisaccia, first head coach or interim head coach in 50 years to take his team to the playoffs. So there's a lot of love there. And I mean that team was just a really, really close knit group. But I do like a lot of the stuff that Josh McDaniels is doing, what Ziegler's doing, because those guys have worked together. I love the move of Champ Kelly. He was somebody that I've talked about a ton. And now the fact that you just see they're bringing in more and more guys to have a collective unit, because one of the things that I did not like that John Gruden did was he had 51-49 control with Mayock, which essentially means at the end of the day, he got final say. And Gruden screwed up a lot of moves. You can say what you want. He was supposed to be this great move, but draft picks, free agency trades, there's a lot of different things into it. And Gruden was a little bit of a boomer, couldn't get things done, couldn't really adjust. But I'm excited to see what McDaniels is going to do, because they've said the right things, they've done the right things so far, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, man. Look, when they announced the Gruden hire, I remember John Gruden with us. I remember John Gruden with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I watched John Gruden destroy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Gruden is a really, really good head coach, but he's the kind of guy that's so emotional, and he's the kind of guy that is so, like, he's tyrannical. He needs somebody over him to reel him back in. And that was one of the reasons why him and Al Davis used to bump heads, because Al wouldn't just let him run roughshod over the organization and pull all of the moves he wanted to pull. By him having control of the organization, he really, once I found out he had control over the organization, he pretty much had a puppet of a GM and Mike Mayock. I was like, you know what, man, I know that this is not going to wind up good, because John is too emotional. He's too tyrannical, and he's a boomer, and he doesn't know how to deal with the younger players. Like, if you look at the way these guys were so close with Rich Bisaccia, I'm thinking to myself, is it because John Gruden was such an asshole? You know what I mean? Or is it because, he was, I mean, I don't know, man. The way these guys are talking about this guy, man, it is very, very telling about how young our locker room is at this point.
See, I think young is one point, but I mean, when you grow up with certain people, you have high school friends, but I mean, Ant, you can probably speak to this as well. Like, I went to a small college. My best friends, the guys who I would ride and die with, are my college roommates. Why? Because you go through a lot of stuff with them in life, and I think that's why this locker room is as close as what it is. Because sure, it was only 1 year, but man, when you go through all the ups and the downs that team went through this season, and the lows of the lows and the highs of the highs of making the playoffs, you're just going to naturally get close with a lot of those guys. So I know Gruden was a tough guy to be able to deal with, but I think that's why they had the respect for Bisaccia that they did. And the last time that, the Raiders made the playoffs back in 2016, Jack Del Rio, he got a hefty little bit of a contract raise. And unfortunately, Bisaccia, he is interviewing right now for the Jags job. And I actually think he has a halfway decent chance to go get that, because from what it sounds like right now, Byron Leftwich, who sounded like he was going to be the favorite, he's deciding to back out of that because he doesn't want to work with general manager Trent Baalke, and Baalke's had a lot of issues. So, at the end of the day, if Bisaccia can go, he's been coaching since 1978. I don't know what you guys were doing in 1978, but I definitely wasn't doing this. He's been in it for a really long time, and if he can get a head coaching gig, man, I'd be happy for him. Obviously, I would like him back with the Raiders, but that's just not going to happen.
See, I conversely, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was for them replacing Richie B, because Richie B doesn't
replacing as a head coach. Yes, I wanted
Yeah.
Bisaccia back as an assistant head coach. Give him a little bit of a raise, maybe special teams guy. But no, head coach like McDaniels is going to be able to call better plays. They were top 10 in the red zone. Like, that's where the Raiders needed to get better.
I didn't want to have him around, because having him in the locker room is going to cause a division in the locker room. You can't have him there with these guys and have him go back once he's gotten a taste of being head coach of this team and going back to being an assistant coach. I don't think that would have worked very well. And I think that, listen, you can't have two head coaches. Normally you have an assistant head coach on a lot of teams, but with Rich, they're so emotionally loyal to him. It would have been hard for Josh McDaniel to come in and assert himself into this locker room. So I'm kind of glad that they started fresh. I mean, I feel like this offseason is the most important offseason in the Raiders' history, to be honest with you. It really is, because if you really look at it, everything is lining up for them to build the foundation of a winner going ahead forward. Mark Bedane stepped down because of some craziness going on. So we didn't have a president. We don't have a GM. We don't have a coach. We have a lot of cap space. We have a lot of players that are free agents that are going to be gone. And then the nucleus of this team is really, really young. So this right now is going to set the stage for the next 20 years of the Raiders, I think, to be honest with you.
20 years is definitely a long time. I mean, the NFL definitely is a short-term franchise, or short-term type of 3 to 5 years. At least that's kind of how I think it ends up going. But I mean, you're right. You got 26 free agents. I believe 31.7 million in cap space, which right now is like somewhere around like 11 or 12. You got a first round pick, second, third, fourth, 2 fifths, a 6 and a 7. So, I mean, they got picks. Drafts in Vegas. The Pro Bowl right now is in Vegas. There's a lot of good things happening in Vegas, and the Las Vegas Raiders have never had a losing record. So that's good for them.
But see, look, let me tell you something. This is the reason why I say 20 years. And what I mean by 20 years is
vision.
Culture. The culture of the Raiders will be set now. Like, see, the thing is, I don't think Mark Davis owns this team another 8 years if we don't turn this thing around and he doesn't put a winner in the seats. Las Vegas is a very transient town. You know what I mean? It's not a sports town. It's a new sports town. And there's a lot of things to do in Las Vegas. And if you don't win in Las Vegas, it's going to be hard to keep that stadium filled up. Like when I was out there, it seemed like it was an NFL Europe game because, it's a Raider Dolphin game and people have on Rams jerseys and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like for the future of the Raiders, these years are very, very important. They can't go through a spell of them being a losing franchise for 4 or 5 years. People will tune out. And guess what? The owners are chopping at the bit to take this team from Mark Davis because he's not a part of the billionaire club. So, that's my personal opinion.
He's not a part of the billionaire club, but being a part of the 600 millionaire club, I don't know how many Benjamins that is. And you got Benjamin behind you. Maybe but like Mark, I don't think you're going to have to literally take this team away from Mark just because his dad started it. And even if the Raiders lose, you might not get the fans in Las Vegas, but the nation is one of the most crazy, diehard fan bases, which is why, I always tell people I was not born a Raiders fan. I am a new Raiders fan. And the biggest thing for me I ever did was I started fantasy football. I love fantasy, but I did fantasy because of my family. And my family always came first. And, I would do anything for my family. And at the end of the day, the more and more Raider fans I met, it was like a family. So even if they stink, people aren't going to back out because that shield means a lot. It means a lot about the family. And at the end of the day, like, I don't care if they're bad. I mean, there's going to be so many people that support that team. They might not go to the games because it's expensive as hell, but they're still
That's
going
what
to
I'm
support the
talking
team.
about. See, what I mean is from an economic level, right?
Very expensive.
From an
Very
economic
expensive.
level, it is imperative that the Raiders win for Mark Davis to be able to keep control. Because, like, listen, man, for years they've always tried to paint him in a corner. They've tried to paint his father in a corner. Listen, I'm a lot older than you guys. I remember Al Davis going to fight them, and I remember him trying to move the team to Irwindale and all of this kind of stuff. I remember all of that, and I'm telling you. They have so many people now that are billionaires in the National Football League. These guys don't have those kind of relationships Al had with Ralph Wilson and Clark Hunt, not Clark, Lamar Hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those relationships are gone. You have a bunch of guys that are killers, man. They're coming in there and they just want to make money. I really think, man, because we know the consortium of owners are the ones who decide yay or nay with things. When they froze Mark out of Los Angeles, I saw how they felt about him. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at it from this perspective, man. If the Raiders don't turn it around and continuously win and establish a winning culture in a new city, they're going to have a serious, serious problem there, with him holding on to this. That's just my opinion, Mitch.
All right, I mean that's what we're here for. I mean, if it was all of us agreeing, this would be boring as hell. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, right. Hey, man. So let me ask you a question. Where do you see the Raiders going in the offseason as far as need and like free agency? You know what I mean? What do you think the biggest area of need is for us in free agency?
Well, I think first, honestly, is figuring out what you're going to do with Derek, because what you're ever going to do with Carr, he's scheduled to make $19.9 million, zero, dead cap hit. And on my show the other day, Chuck, I'm sorry, you guys see my dog.
That's all good.
No worries.
The other
bro.
day, I was talking about potentially doing a contract extension. And one of the things that I respect about Ziegler and respect about McDaniels, they just seem super into figuring out what is going to be best for that organization. So it starts with Derek. If you decide to move on from Derek, I don't think that they're going to go into a rebuild, because to go into a rebuild after, a 10-win season, you're trying to win right away. It's not smart. I think the most reasonable thing to do is either you let Derek play on that final year of his contract, or you give him a contract extension of like 2-3 years. Don't give him too much money. I mean, he's literally said that he would do whatever it takes to help you win. And then that's step one. Step two, you got to get him a number one receiver. We've been saying it for God knows how long in free agency. I personally would love to go out and get a guy like Devontae Adams. Allen Robinson's solid. I mean, Adams is going to cost a pretty penny, no doubt about it. Chris Godwin, and then if you want to go a cheaper route, guys like DJ Chark, definitely options. And then I personally think that the Raiders are going to try to keep Alex Leatherwood as a right guard.
They
You
should.
could potentially, and I agree. You could potentially kick out Denzel Good as a right tackle. You can keep Denzel Good as a left guard. I mean, he was supposed to be a solid guy, and then he, tore his ACL. But if it was up to me, I would get a veteran right tackle to put next to Leatherwood, because if you get another young guy and it doesn't work out, you might expose Leatherwood a little bit more than what you would like to. So go out, get a solid right tackle veteran. I like Morgan Moses as just a good little stopgap type of dude. Bring him in, help Leatherwood learn a little bit, and maybe even Andre Dillard. He was a former first-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it was like 22 overall back in 2019.
Washington State, Andre Dillard. He's like a dancing bear. I like him.
He's I don't know what that means, but if I can get a dancing bear he's a big guy, maybe that's what you mean.
No, I'm saying, he has great footwork. He is very, very athletic. He's like what I mean. He has it. You know what I mean? I like him, and I like Jermaine Ifedi too. I would go after him too, man, from the Chicago Bears.
If he could stay healthy, I mean, Chicago had a lot of injury issues, but and then I would say if you can address all those things in free agency, then you go into the draft. And the guy that I am just the more and more tape I watch on him is the big old dude from Georgia, Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle. Like the Raiders, they got to get a little bit more stout in the front, and he's 6'5". He's 360. He's like a polar bear. So, like, I mean, you just want to talk about just a big old dude up front. But, I mean, the Raiders, it all starts with Carr. See what they do in free agency. See what they do in the draft. You're going to have to make a few good trades. You got to extend Crosby. You got to extend Hunter Renfrow. I would extend Yannick Ngakoue as well. And then I'm trying to think of a few more guys. On top of my head, that's all I got.
Hunter Renfrow is one of my favorite wide receivers, man. Like ever since Clemson, he just is solid. He's just, runs those little 5-yard routes. Just I feel like he just catches everything that's thrown his way. It's like weird when he makes drops. I'm like, wow, how did you drop that, bro? I totally agree, man. I feel like Derek Carr has been one of the unluckiest quarterbacks in the NFL. I feel like season after season, something just goes wrong that just doesn't go his way. Like even the year they made the playoffs, he broke his ankle, correct?
Yeah.
It's just and then this year alone was like, I can't believe they made the playoffs after everything the organization went through this year. So, I mean, I'm definitely rooting for him, but 100% they gotta make up their minds on what they want to do with him.
See, for me, extending Derek Carr, I don't know if the Raiders are you hear Josh McDaniels talk, and he's committed to Derek Carr, but this is the good thing about having a separation between the coach and the GM. Because when Derek Carr goes to the table to negotiate, he's going to be sitting across from Ziegler, not the head coach. So the head coach can come out and, publicly endorse Derek. And from what I heard from Ziegler said, we're going to see what happens, right? So, yeah. And that's how it's supposed to be. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that this is yet another time where Derek Carr feels disrespected. You heard what his brother was saying and coming out and speaking for him last week. And a lot of the times, man, I think Derek Carr will speak to his brother, and his brother will kind of send a message out to the media and to the world because Derek doesn't want to say it himself. And I believe that, this is going to be a little different. I don't think Derek Carr is going to come in and play for $19 million, man. You know what I mean? Derek Carr is one of the probably the 10 best quarterbacks in football. And you got guys like Dak Prescott that's making $43 million. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see Derek Carr coming here and playing under a franchise tag like that. It wouldn't be smart. I don't think his agent will let him. He says that he wants to retire a Raider and everything like that. And then I just find it funny that, after all of this, he has his brother come out and say the things that he did because he kind of painted himself in the corner, because now you lose your bargaining control. I think Derek Carr I don't think the negotiation between the Raiders and Derek Carr is going to go as smooth as we think.
See, here's my thing. You can say what you want about Carr. I personally don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I think he's really good. I think he's probably somewhere around that 12, 13, 14 range, which is, right now we are honestly spoiled with the amount of really good quarterbacks that there are in the National Football League.
Correct.
In terms of DC at 19.9, we got to stop looking at what the last biggest contract was, right? Like, I mean, Dak Prescott, he just got a big old deal. Why? Because his deal was recent. And for Derek, though, he's always said that he's made plenty of money, that right now he wants to win. And you want to talk about a bargaining chip, if by him saying that he would rather retire than play for another NFL team, if that was me, if I was running an organization, I'd be like, all right, well, you're going to play on the $19.9 million. If you don't want to play anywhere else, you're either going to play with us at 19.9, or you're going to be able to play. Maybe you get a deal for $25 million extension per year. Sure, it's a little bit underneath of what he might be used to, but I will take Carr's credit or word in terms of, I do think he's a man of his word. He's a very strong man of his faith. And if he says that, like, he wants to win and he's not really worried about money, then I hope that he sticks to his word, because at the end of the day, like, that's what's going to help this team be able to build, because every time that he's been given money, they're not able to have a team around him, then he struggles. But as you saw in the first half of the season, when he had people around him, he was the first 7 games, if you extrapolate his numbers from his first 7 games, he was on pace for 29 touchdowns, 12 turnovers, 5,600 yards. The final 7 games, and I get it, didn't have Waller, didn't have Ruggs, offensive line struggles, but are you really going to pay a guy, you're talking about $30 million a year at least, where over the last 7 games, I get it, they won games, they went to the playoffs, but he would have been on pace for 4,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 24 turnovers. My answer to that would be no.
Yeah, see, Mitch, this is the difference, though. So when you say Derek is a top 10 quarterback, we're talking about in today's NFL right now, right?
He's
Because
not a top 10 quarterback.
hear me out. Now,
Uh-oh.
I'm not a big Carr guy. You know, I don't make excuses for Derek. When Derek Carr has protection in today's football, with Tom Brady retiring, with Ben Roethlisberger being out of the league, with all these young guys coming in right now, if he has protection, he is a top 10 guy, maybe top 15 guy, right? But if he doesn't, he's a lower run quarterback. So right now, right, I don't know if I can name 10 guys better than Derek right now. Right now. You know what I mean? We know the Mahomes of the world. We know Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Mahomes. You talk Josh Allen, Joe Burrow.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Then it starts getting a little harder. So you know it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could put Carr in that light. Because I mean, are you going to put Lamar Jackson over him?
Absolutely.
All right, Lamar Jackson, right? So now we're at 7. So Kyler Murray, you going to put over him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kyler Murray, so that's 8. So now where do we go from there? What other guys do you got that are better than Carr? Because Brady's not in the league anymore.
No, I got you. I mean, I'd have to go through and look at it team by division. I'll take Matthew Stafford right now. He's in the Super Bowl. I'll take Dak Prescott.
See, I knew you. That's why I asked you. I knew you were going to say Dak. There's no way Dak Prescott is better than Derek Carr, bro. No way.
How? I mean, I'm not sitting up here and saying Dak's not. I don't know. I don't think he's top 5, but I think at the end of the day, I've seen what Dak's been able to do, and I would take Dak Prescott over Derek Carr. I mean, I'll look at the numbers. I'll look at the on-field performance. I think, Dak's actually had to deal with a lot of things that Derek did not have to deal with. I respect the hell out. I mean, people rip on Dak because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, but, I mean, since that guy has come into the league, he has won. He's mobile. He's got good arm talent. Now, they have elite talent at the wide receiver position. No doubt about it. I mean, they do. They truly do. They got a good
up and down the field.
You're right. But at the end of the day, I think from a talent standpoint, from my eyes standpoint, I will take Dak Prescott over Derek Carr. I'm not sitting here saying Carr's not even close to Dak. No. But if you were to tell me would I rather have Dak Prescott or Derek Carr, now if you would tell me Derek Carr at $19.9 million or Dak Prescott at $40 million, I'll take Carr every single day of the week, twice on Sundays. But from a talent standpoint alone, it's different.
Mitch, I don't know, man. You got to wash your mouth out with soap right now. Picking Dak Prescott, Mr. getting eliminated from the playoffs every year, with a who's who of offensive talent. Like, this guy's third receiver is better than our best receiver right now.
What about Justin Herbert?
Herbert,
yeah,
right?
Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert's a young lion, right? So you got Herbert, and then I got Carr at 10. So that was 9 guys, and then I got Carr at 10. You know what I mean?
When I did my preseason quarterback rankings, I had Carr at 12, and now the fact that Tom Brady's out, he's somewhere around 11. I think the biggest issue though with a lot of Raider fans, and it's with anybody that falls in love with their team. You watch your team a lot, you start to learn those players, and then they're the apple of your eye, right? Like, I mean, I heard the other day on YouTube somebody was like, Marcus Mariota's a top 20 quarterback. I love Mariota.
They're tweaking.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. It's just you watch certain guys and you have respect. Like, there's nobody in the league that I respect more than Derek Carr, because I think Ant said it earlier. I mean, if there's been anybody that's been given the short end of the stick, Derek Carr, I really can honestly sit up here and say I think he's actually had the hardest career by any quarterback in the history of the NFL, simply because you go back from 2014, he's had 5 different head coaches. I think now about to be 6. He's had 4 or 5 different offensive coordinators. His best player that he's ever had, they traded away Khalil Mack. Those trades have been an absolute disaster. And then when you went in and brought Gruden, every single pick that they've had, maybe minus Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, I mean, those were a few late-round gems. Colt Miller's been solid, but he was pretty bad Miller his first 2 years. So, I think definitely gotten the short end of the stick.
I think that's a great point, man. Like, when you're bringing in a different coach and all these different coordinators, he's had to learn how many different offenses.
Seriously.
And he still had pretty decent amount of success. That's impressive. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah, man. See, the thing about that is, for me, a lot of this stuff, he has some self-inflicted wounds as well, right? Derek was the one who pounded the table for Todd Dowling to be the offensive coordinator. That was a disaster because it was his buddy, and they should have kept Musgrave. So, I think a little bit's too much. We make a lot of excuses for Derek. We make excuses for the fact that Derek doesn't have pocket presence. We make excuses for the fact that Derek's a turnover machine. He has small hands and he fumbles a lot. So, I don't make those excuses for Derek. You know what I mean? Like, people talk about the line
People
play.
shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't make excuses for Derek. I'm watching Joe Burrow get to the Super Bowl with no line, even though he has Jamar Chase, right? And
Oh,
I feel
100%.
like Amari Cooper is that he's not Jamar Chase, but he's a step below that in talent, and I don't think that he maximized his time with Amari Cooper here. He used to throw to Michael Crabtree and Seth Roberts a lot more than he ever did Coop. You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean,
Coop,
I know
though,
he's
see, I
like
think
Coop.
I like Amari Cooper's a hell of a receiver, but if you watch the games, like he just stopped caring. Like Amari, I don't care what anybody says, he sandbagged it. He didn't want to be there anymore. And when you have a player that's doing that, now he's not pulling a Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is probably the guy that I can't stand the most in all of sports right now. But Amari, I mean, the effort alone, it just simply wasn't there. So like he was great. Carr was really great. Obviously, when he had Cooper, when he had, Crabtree, he had all these other receivers, but you do need to be able to go out and get him somebody else. I mean, he can't do it all on his own. Zay Jones is a wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
Brian Edwards proved me that he couldn't create separation. And to be honest with you, if he's anything more than your wide receiver 3, you're in trouble. One of the things that I am excited to see, though, that McDaniel's going to be able to bring to the table is like they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So that means more Foster Moreau, more Darren Waller out there on the field. What does that mean for Jacobs? Hopefully that opens up a few more things for him. A guy like Kenyon Drake, can he get involved? And if you can go out and add like a number 1 receiver, maybe add another guy with a little bit of speed, and the offense is going to open up. And I know that Carr is going to be able to be a good quarterback. But then at the end of the day, you don't play in this league to be good. You don't play in the league to make the playoffs barely. You don't play.
You play
It
in the
comes
league
down
to
to
be
a
great.
Super Bowl. You play in the league to win a Super Bowl. And one of the reasons why I don't know if I would give Carr this monster contract of $40 million a year is because if you do that, I definitely worry that you're not going to be able to put enough talent around him. And then therefore, we're in a similar situation where we're trying to create excuses again.
Yeah, well, see, and this is my thing. I think when you have a new regime, you have to stay away from big contracts because they're building the foundation of the program that they're going to have set for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, right? So when you get tied into a big contract, it kind of hamstrings you from the get-go. That's the reason why a lot of people with this whole Devontae Adams thing, I'm not in favor of them bringing Devontae Adams here because Devontae Adams is going to demand at least $30 million a year. And I know the Green Bay Packers aren't going to let him just walk out of the door without them getting some kind of compensation for him. I know the Packers have to let him go after they franchise him because they're over the cap and he has to go somewhere. But for us, I don't want 15% of the salary cap to be tied into one player because we're definitely not one player away from competing for a Super Bowl.
No, you're not wrong there. I don't know if Devontae is going to get $30 million. I know the number that he's throwing out. I think the only way he gets $30 million is if he takes a short-term contract like DeAndre Hopkins got, right? Because a lot of people are going to look at DeAndre Hopkins' contract. It was 2 years, 54, right? So $27 million a year. Like if Adams wants to get that type of contract, but to be honest with you, man, like I'm okay with that. Like Adams is 29 years old. I'll give him $30 million a year if it's a 2-year deal. If he wants a 5-year deal, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing a lot of times is these guys like, I don't know, Michael Thomas, 5 years. He hasn't even played barely. So if he goes long-term deal, I think he's going to be somewhere around $25 million a year, which obviously, still a lot of money. But if he goes short-term, but if I was the Raiders, right, you're going on year 8 with Derek Carr, and we're still having this conversation. If you want to just absolutely stop all the conversations, and a good way to save some money, if I was telling you right now, all right, Derek, we're going to extend you 2 years, I'd go out and give Devontae a 3-year deal. Because then at the end of the day, I know I did everything humanly possible, and we don't sit here playing this limbo dance anymore with a quarterback because you're going to spend more money on your quarterback than you are any position. So, like, I don't know. That's personally where I stand on it.
See, for me, with this new organization that's coming in here, and this new regime, they don't owe Derek Carr anything at this point. So it's not for them to prove or disprove whether Derek Carr can play or not. What they need to do is come in here, draft well, put and I heard, and this is one thing that made me feel very, very reassured with Ziegler. He said we are not going to try to have a collection of talent. We're going to bring in people who fill a specific need in a specific role. So if they're going to run their shit, the Patriots have never really had big name receivers. And when they did, they got Moss through free agency. You know what I mean? Not free agency. They got him through a trade with us that was, more advantageous to them. And he was making no money with the Patriots, right? So I want to see them go out there, get their kind of receivers, get their kind of skill position players, and try to see if Carr can exist within that. Yeah, because I think that this team has so many needs. I think we need
I don't disagree with you, but
we need
what
two
is New
offensive
England?
linemen.
People talk, no doubt about it, but people always talk about New England being really great. If you can give me 3 really good receivers that either Belichick or all of them have either drafted or signed or traded for, not named Randy Moss, I might even get lucky and we'll let Ant take his shirt off. So, like, that's the reward. But because, like, you can say what you – New England and Josh McDaniels, the whole regime, they haven't done a good job being able to find receivers. Like, they really haven't.
Yeah, but see, the thing about it is they get guys to fill that specific need, like the Wes Welkers of the world, like the Julian Edelmans of the world, like the Trey Browns of the world. So what I'm saying is that I'm not saying to go out there and go get these star players. The thing is, we're talking about the desired result. We're talking about a team who's been in the Super Bowl 9 times and won 6 in the last 20 years, bro. So that means that, what they're doing is working. They don't have to have these big name receivers. They're getting to the Super Bowl. They're winning. They're in the playoffs every year.
See, they also had a guy named Tom Brady, right? When you look at the last 2 years, just sit with me. Last 2 years, their offense back in 2020 was ranked 27th in the league. Sure, all right, they had Cam Newton. I get it. This past year, cool. They had a rookie quarterback, still somewhere around 10. But if you look at just those last 2 years, not a playoff caliber team. Got bounced in the first round of the playoffs by Josh Allen and got absolutely whooped. I get the idea that McDaniels got 6 rings. The Patriots did this. They did that. That's great. But as long as, like, we have to take into consideration the Brady factor, because what Brady did in Tampa Bay was absolutely spectacular. And we can't just sit here and be like, we're going to get the Patriot way.
Well, see, we got to look at it from the beginning of Brady's career, right? So, like, at the end of Brady's career, he's a master. He's throwing the ball all over the place. And that just comes from the fact that in the ball league, the quarterbacks don't get hit the way they did in the 80s. And those guys couldn't, last as long as they did. And Brady picked the perfect scenario for himself. He went down to a place that was loaded with talent, and he drove the car and he won. But in the beginning, when we're talking about back in the days with the David Givens of the world and the David Pattons of the world and all of these guys, Brady and them guys and the way that they won wasn't with big Troy Brown. They didn't win with big receivers. They didn't really need those guys. And I think that, right now, we talk about the first year, right? Because we're building a program here. You don't want to go up, huh?
What happened? 20 years. That's what we're building.
Yeah, but I'm talking about with the Raiders, right? Yeah, we're starting off now. We're trying to go into the next 20 years of the organization, because I think if you set the stage now, you can kind of evolve into going out there and getting big name free agents. But I don't think that the Raider fan base is going to be able to take us going and taking like a step back and it being 6-10 or 8-8. And there are a lot of needs on this team. There are a lot of needs on the defensive end of the ball, because a lot of the guys that were Gus Bradley guys are going to walk out of the door now. We're changing schemes. Some of these guys, like the Casey Haywards of the world, aren't a fit for the new defense that's going to come in, because it's looking like they're going to run either, a 3-4 or 4-3. Casey Hayward is not equipped at this point in his career to play that defense. He's going to follow Gus Bradley wherever he goes, right? So now you don't just have to replace 2 starters on an offensive line, right? Then also you're changing your offensive line scheme. You're going from a zone blocking scheme to a power scheme. So there's a lot of moving parts here, Mitch, and I don't think that this year is the year to go get the big receiver for Derek. Derek has played with, I think this is the year where you get guys that are second-tier guys that are talented. You get guys that fill a role. So if you get a DJ Shark, you got that big guy that's talented, that's fast, that can jump and get the ball, or go get a Mike Williams or somebody like that. And then you pair him with, you pair him with another receiver, like maybe like Barrios or something from the Jets. You know what I mean? I mean, he's kind of a slot guy, but he's a shifty guy. He's a good kick returner. You know what I mean? But he's an actor. He reminds me of a Wes Welker kind of a guy. Then you still got Hunter Renfrow, and then you got some of the other guys in this organization. But what I would like to see that receiver room look like, I'd rather have a bunch of good receivers than one great one. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would like to see, because I feel like you can fill the team and the offense out a lot better, and Carl have a lot more weapons at his disposal.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I also think though you're going to be able to spend a little bit more money this year. So the salary cap last year was 180 million. It's about to go up 40 million. NFL is going to get a brand new TV deal, so you're going to have money to spend. And I think we always talk about salary cap. We talk about salary cap, but I mean realistically, if you want to get a guy, you can push money back. You can do certain things like if you want somebody bad enough, you can figure out a way to go ahead and do it. Now, if Adams gets franchise tag and we got to give up 2 first-round picks and then pay him, I'm good on
That's
that.
yeah,
Like, I'm
that's
good
what I'm
on that.
talking
Like,
about, Mitch.
I'll
That's what it's
take
gonna
Allen
take.
Robinson. Hey, and if that ends up happening, then I will change my tone. But at this current juncture, Devontae Adams is a free agent wide receiver. He's the best receiver in the National Football League. And I want to be able to figure out if I get Derek Carr a number one, is he my franchise quarterback? Because if I can figure out he is my franchise quarterback, then you got to be able to go out and pay him and give him his money, because quarterback is really one of the most important positions in football. So you got to be able to figure it out.
It is the most important position in professional sports, if
I'm
you
gonna
ask
have
me.
to. I think I'm gonna side with Mitch on this one, man. Like I would give Adams the money. I want that guy on my team. And like you said, with McDaniels there, is he gonna run the 2 tight end sets? That's gonna open things up. And then if you got the deep threat, you got a good slot receiver in Renfro. You got Waller, who's a beast, and then whoever you want to put on the other side. That's going to
See,
open up more for Jacobs as well. And he was looking good towards the end of the year,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think, in my humble opinion, I would want to get that guy and give him that deep threat. Like, he's a total game changer, And I feel like Carr's really never had that. He's had mediocre receivers.
I just don't think this roster is talented enough to go out and pay one guy that much of your cap room. I just don't think this roster is talented enough. They don't have, like, a couple of years ago, I would have said go get the best guy in the market. But like right now, I don't think this roster. And then what you have to take into consideration, you got to extend Max Crosby. You can't let it get to a situation with the Khalil Mack situation. Then you have a lot of young players that are playing well. Hunter Renfro's got to get his money. You want to keep Hunter around. Colton Miller's going to be coming up again. You have a lot of guys on it. You had to make a decision on Cleveland Farrell, which it looks like it depends on what kind of. He's gone because you can't pay him like that. But you can cut Cleveland Farrell and bring him back if you play a 3-4. He's more of a 3-4 end, I think. Playing a 4-3, he's not.
They're going to turn down his 5th-year option. I mean, he's scheduled to make $9 million this year. If you cut him, you're going to eat all of it. So, like, if you can go out and trade for him, like, I don't know if anyone's going to trade for him.
Nobody's going to trade for that guy.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but if you could get Cleveland Farrell at $4 million a year, which is what it would be if you end up trading for him, like maybe somebody would be like, he's a first-round pick, take a shot on him. That, I mean, they're gonna have some extra cap room. Like they're about to get, they should get an extra 14 mil because the money from Henry Ruggs has yet to be given, the money from Damon Arnett has yet to be given, and I believe that both of those guys will be what's known as a conduct detrimental to the team where their contract's void. So now you're going to have a few extra dollars to spend. Like, no doubt, I want the Raiders to be able to build as much of a complete team as humanly possible because at the end of the day, honestly, I hate talking about Derek Carr. I love DC, but, sometimes I get worried that my girlfriend's like, what the hell? Like, I feel like I'm going to start saying Derek's name in my sleep because that's how often I talk about him. Like, I mean, it's the God honest truth, but no, I mean, they got to be able to build that defense. I hear a lot of things that you're saying, and the Raiders team is going to look a lot different because of the amount of free agents that they have, because of the guys that you're bringing in. And I'm glad that you mentioned the thing that you did about Casey Hayward, because I said it the other day on my show. I'm like, Hayward, I would be absolutely shocked if Hayward comes back. Now, if they bring back Bradley, sure, that totally changes the equation. Yeah. But Hayward, like you mentioned, he was a Bradley fit. I think he's going to travel wherever, he can run that cover 3 zone. And it's going to be a fun off season no matter what. So I'm definitely excited for it.
Hey, Mitch, I want to ask you, man, what do you think? Because this is the way I would address the wide receiver number one thing. I would go out, go get a second tier guy like a DJ Shark. And what do you think about, because we have a deep wide receiver draft coming up. What if a guy like Treylon Burks fell in your lap at 22? This is a height, weight, speed guy. There's only been 6 other guys in the league who has immeasurables. He ran at sub 4.5, 40. He's over 200 and 230 or something like that. And freaking, he's 6'3".
Yeah,
he got size 5X hands. Like he just looks like he's going to be that special kind of beast that you can get at a young rookie contract, and then you can go from that perspective if he falls to you.
I mean, honestly, he reminds me of actually a little bit bigger of a version of an Andre Johnson in terms of build and what he could potentially be.
Yeah.
My only thing that does scare me with Traylon is if you watch, sometimes he has really bad concentration issues, some pretty bad drops, and sometimes in that offense that I think the Patriots are going to run, if you can't get a guy that has the concentration or we'll say loses the confidence easily, because there's some games where he lost the confidence. I don't know if McDaniels or Carr is going to go to him as often, so definitely one thing. But I mean, hey, there's 6 receivers in this year's draft that I would take in the first round. Burks is my number 6 guy in terms of overall fit. However, I also think that the Raiders could go out and get other positions of need because there are bigger needs. Like I would rather take Jordan Davis. I would rather have an offensive lineman. I would rather have one of these stud cornerbacks potentially even in the draft as well. So I like Burks a lot, though.
It depends. It depends on what kind of scheme they're going to run. I know that the Patriots they kind of do things on the fly and based off of, what particular opponent, because they change their – and they're not the Patriots, so we don't know how they're going to run things. If they have a 4-3 defense, I would probably draft a wide receiver, and I think that Jordan Davis's teammate from Georgia – my God,
Nakobe Dean?
No, not Nakobe Dean, the linebacker. I'm talking about the other defensive tackle. That is an animal.
No, I know you mean.
Because I talk about Jordan Davis so much, his name is slipping my mind right now. But let me tell you something.
I don't mean to cut you off. I gotta check something because there was just some breaking news in the NFL. So
I just saw it come across my Bleacher Report too.
Was it Doug Peterson? He just got hired, but where'd he go?
Yeah, we go to the Jaguars. I'm trying to look
Jags.
now.
Yep, Jags.
Yeah, I knew the Jags were going to hire him. It looked like it's a good fit for him. You know what I mean?
That's wow.
So, but listen,
Rich, hold on. How long do we got you for, bro? I don't want to steal all your time.
No, you're good. I probably got another 10 minutes because I got to take out Chuck, and I just got to make sure that I don't got to go to work. So just because. So that's all I had to check. So that was I saw it come through, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to go to work.
You good, bro? So we'll go another 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, most definitely. But for me, the way I'm handling the offseason, I'm taking best player available at 1, and then if I'm in a 4-3, there's no need for me to get Jordan Davis. I can wait to the second round and get his teammate because he's a great 3 technique. He can fucking come out there, rush the passer. You know what I mean? He's more of a pass rusher. The thing I worry about with Jordan Davis is his motor. You know what I mean? And the thing about, guys like that, are built like Greek gods and that got a problem with a motor, that's something that's intrinsic that you can't fix, and I've always had an issue. And I remember I go back a lot further than you guys. I remember Darrell Russell. Darrell Russell was probably one of the best defensive tackles I've ever seen in my life. And he had a motor issue. And at first they got by and, we went to the Super Bowl and Darrell Russell was great. It was like, who's better, him or Warren Sapp? People were saying he was better than Warren Sapp at the time. I'm talking about when he first came into the league. But eventually, Darrell Russell's weight got the best of him. The Raiders had to get rid of him. He got on drugs. And then before you know it, he was out of the league and he wound up dying really tragically.
I'll say this. One of my favorite players of all time at the defensive tackle position had a lot of weight problems. He was also a really successful Patriot. And I really honestly believe that New England will look at that and it's Vince Wilfork, where that dude was just a mountain of a man. And if I was somebody like Jordan Davis, I'm not saying he's going to be Vince Wilfork because Vince was even a little bit bigger than what he was.
Yeah.
But I do think Jordan has the versatility and he's athletic enough where he could he's definitely built more for a 3-4 scheme, but I think he could also play in a 4-3. And it also wouldn't really surprise me if the Raiders try to do both because when McDaniels talked about the defense, he was like, you've got to be versatile in today's NFL game. He talked about the defensive backs, and he mentioned you got to have 5 good DBs because they're going to play a lot of base. They're going to play a lot of nickel. So I think that's another reason why we could see the Raiders go out and get, one of these young cornerbacks. I personally love Sauce Gardner, the cornerback out of Cincinnati.
He's going to be gone by 22, bro. The Eagles are not going to let him pass. He's going to be gone. Him and Stingley Jr. will definitely be gone. Those are the only 2 guys I'd take in the first round at cornerback.
See, Stingley I'm not as high on. Elam scares me a little bit, the corner.
Well, from Florida?
Honestly, Elam, so I always tell myself don't judge the helmet because every cornerback that's ever come out of Florida, I feel like in the first round has been a bust. But I do like Elam. He's really athletic to me. What's his name? Kobe, the other cornerback from Cincinnati. He's not a first-round talent, in my opinion, but he's solid. I think Trent McDuffie is another really good cornerback. But Stingley, to me, he's going to go in the top 15. But if you were to ask me what cornerback do I think is going to be the biggest bust or has the chance to be the biggest bust, it's Stingley because of his just – I would say this. Like, if you watch his tape in 2019, he's like honestly the greatest cornerback I've ever seen. And then in 2020 – he was super inconsistent. This past year, he had some ups, he had some downs, and I think the only thing it reminds me of is like it's one of those players where you realize that you're not the best guy on the field anymore, and then all of a sudden your confidence gets shot. And like I feel like if Stingley's got his confidence, his shit like does not stink, and he is a legit corner. But then it's kind of like, oh shit, I'm not the best guy anymore, and he gets a little bit shell shocked. Like. That's just my early tape recognition on him. And, I mean, this was the guy who was getting projected to be a top 5 pick, and now I've seen him start to fall out of the top 20. So, I mean, we'll see ultimately what happens.
I think in the right situation, the right scheme, he's a instant Pro Bowler. You know what I mean? If he goes to the wrong situation, it's different. But that LSU team quit. You know what I mean? So I don't really blame him. That LSU team quit, man. You had guys that were supposed to be there that didn't play and stuff like that. So I still feel like Stingley's a top 10 pick. He has all the measurables. He has the size. He has the speed. You know what I mean? He has the footwork. He has the brain.
He's got all the tools.
He's got the lineage, man.
That quit.
So him,
like, I don't want guys that quit. And
but see, he didn't quit though. The team quit. LSU. He's a guy who didn't quit and played. Half of it, the rest of his teammates waited to go to the National Football League. So I can't really say that.
Okay. Hey, a little bit of tape I've watched on him. There was definitely times where I thought he took a few plays off, but maybe it was just the overall team and LSU. Like, I got a lot of friends down here. They're big LSU fans. So we used to go to a lot of LSU bars and watch hella football.
Yeah, man. I see what you mean as far as, it would look like he would like kind of lose confidence, but I don't think he quit. You know what I mean? I think his confidence got shaken because of the assortment of talent. Because we are playing in the SEC. That's the baby National Football League. That LSU team, man, they could barely field the team in 2020, man. And that's pretty discouraging. So I don't think he'll be in that. I think for Stingley, he's got to be in the right situation. And there's a couple of teams that are in the lower end of the league that are going to pick him, and it'll wind up great. I would love if he fell to us, because that'd be a great. You compare him with Merring and Nate Hobbs and all of those guys, and he'd be in a good situation. He have a lot of talent around him, And then if we keep Mullins and stuff like that. But that kid. I think that kid's legit, man. I think you missing the mark on that kid. Him and Sauce Gardner to me are both going to be can't miss guys, man.
Well, people, this is why we have these discussions, man. This is why sports are awesome, because you got two people on the same team, rooting for the same team, and they got a couple different opinions, man.
Yeah, we're diametrically opposite.
Yo, Mitch, but for real, man, thank you for hopping on with us, bro. Taking the time, man. Really appreciate it, man. But
thank you, salute, man.
We'll let you run, bro.
Oh, hey, I appreciate it. Sorry, Chuck's my dog. He's still a puppy, so he's getting he just gets curious when things are going on, and he's definitely losing his patience. But I think at the end of the day, like, if anybody wants to do a podcast, if people are trying to start up their own thing, at Chat Sports, which is the company that I work for those of you that maybe have never heard of who I am or what I do, I do a lot of stuff for the Raiders, and right now our company, we have close to 40 YouTube channels, so I know how difficult it can be at times starting a channel and getting your feet wet and getting those reps. So, if my name brings any value to what you guys do, I think it's always cool, and always being able to talk to somebody who you went to college with. Anthony and I went to college together, and, meeting a new Raider fan, even though you make it sound like you're 40 years older than us. So I'm just curious if you're just like the best looking 70-year-old I've ever seen. But, I love talking. I love talking sports. I love talking Raiders. So honestly, anytime.
I'm not 40 years older than you, but I'm definitely a decade older than you, and that matters. That's the difference between driving and playing with Matchbox cars.
That's hilarious. All right, we're wrapping up, people. Thanks for tuning in, man.
See you guys.